Welcome to Caffeinated Flicks. I'm Celeste.
And I'm Kenzie. We're two chicks who drink coffee
And celebrate flicks from diverse directors.
If you like what you're hearing so far, take a moment to follow us in your favorite podcasting app.
And give us a rating or review. Here's the show.
Oh, well.
Yay.
So, hello. How are you today?
I'm tired.
On a Saturday morning? How dare you?
I know. How dare me?
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing?
I also just rolled out of bed. So
That's odd for you
just
because you're
waking
normally up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, I know. I think because it's winter time and it's just so cold outside of my bedroom.
Like this past week, it got freezing.
It's so cold. And it's only supposed to get colder.
I know. Yeah.
It's so fun. Yeah. So and then we have the added benefit of apparently our heat's not working. So I'm like, cool.
We never turn on the heater.
We barely turn on the heater, but it's apparently not working. And so now we've got our little electric fireplace that we turn on and then a little space heater. And then we're lighting all the candles.
Yeah. Yep. I have my little space heater and then we just turn on our fireplace whenever.
I was going to say, you've got a fireplace.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
I know, but we like to take advantage of the low APS cost. So
right. You have to.
It's so
you have to recuperate the summer.
Right?
Especially since Billy likes it so cold in there.
I know. That's another reason we probably don't turn it on. Or how freezing the house is.
It's just perfect for him.
I didn't hear you. What was that?
Oh, I said it's perfect temperature for him.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of how cold it is, so I decided that for January, we would just do wintry movies. And so that's the reason why today we're doing Winter's Bone. But what are you caffeinating with?
This morning I went to Cultivate coffee. And I got myself a chai, of course. But I got it hot since it's freezing.
Who are you?
I know. Who am I?
Well, and you're wearing a t-shirt and everything. I'm sitting here. I've got 3 shirts on and I'm wearing my shark snuggle thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think I'm just one with the cold now. I'll sit here and I'll touch Billy and my hands will be ice cold and he'll be like, what the heck? And I'm like, I just live in pain. My hands literally hurt. I just accepted it.
You just decided to embrace your Elsa side.
Yeah.
It's fine. That may be the only Frozen reference you ever hear from me.
Yeah. I know. I'm surprised you know about Elsa at all.
I know. I have been made to watch Frozen and then Frozen 2 several times.
I have not seen Frozen 2. Shockingly
I have
enough.
seen Frozen 2. It's a wild ride.
I listen to the soundtrack. I do this thing where I listen to soundtracks, but I don't watch the actual movies. Because I just feel like if I like the soundtrack, the movie might ruin it. And I won't want to listen to it anymore.
Oh my gosh. Never take you to a musical then, apparently.
I do like musicals, but I'm in no rush to see Hamilton. And I don't want to watch Wicked. I still haven't seen The Greatest Showman. I love that soundtrack.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely puts Hugh Jackman in a whole different light when you watch it.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Yeah. It's really not like Alan Rick or Hugh Jackman that you're really judging, if you will. It's Barnum. I'm trying to remember what
the circus guy
was.
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah. I Barnum. That's the only thing I can think of is Barnum. But yeah, it puts just circus in general in a whole different light. But I think that's the point. Even though when you listen to the music, it's so upbeat.
It is.
It's so upbeat.
It seems like a really depressing movie though.
Exactly.
The music is the opposite feel of the movie.
People go and they watch Les Mis all the time, and I'm like, the title is literally The Miserables.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh, yeah, that's great. What are you drinking?
Anyway, I have started using my cold coffee brewer. And so I've got that and a little bit of Ripple half and half, and it's very tasty.
Yummy. What is that cold brew brand that's like really popular? Like the pre-made cold brew in like a green like bottle. Not a green bottle, but like a green wrapping around the bottle.
It's got green on it.
Yeah.
It's Stoke. STOK.
I think it is. I think it was that brand that has a pre-made matcha now. I know. I saw it online and I was like, I want that.
I want that.
And it was the only thing that TikTok would be able to influence me on. Is pre-made matcha.
Oh my gosh. That's too funny. Well, you do have a birthday coming up, so.
As do you. Oh my God.
I know.
It doesn't even feel like it. Isn't that weird? This is like the first birthday where like it doesn't even feel like I have a birthday coming up.
Oh, really?
Really that. Yeah.
I think because I'm planning that giant like girls trip for my birthday that you can't be on, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so excited. I'm just like, wow, let's go. We're going to have so much fun.
I think because I have a trip that's not really for me during my birthday, that's probably why. It's overshadowing my birthday vibes.
Yeah. I had that happen once. I had that happen in high school where it was my 18th birthday and I was part of the a cappella choir and we had a festival that we had.
You were in an a cappella group?
I was in an a cappella choir.
What the heck? That's shocking. I'm sorry.
Why? I was in choir like 3 years out of high school. I was in
choir too. Does that automatically make it an a cappella group?
No, like we specifically, like our highest tiered choir class was an a cappella choir. Oh, yeah. You had to like audition to get in and everything. And so then you were in different sections.
Crazy, Kenzie. I didn't know.
Sound and arrangements. Yeah. So for the a cappella choir that I was a part of, we had to go up to Flagstaff to NAU to do a madrigal festival where we competed. And literally, like, we competed on my birthday and nobody could care less that it was my birthday.
What was that? That happened to a friend of mine in elementary school. We went to Catalina Island for our school field trip. And we were doing like some group activity. And they were like, is it anybody's birthday today? And it was actually her birthday because we went in February. And she's like, oh my God, it's my birthday. And she's like, don't lie. And then she just dismissed her.
That's so rude.
We're like, oh shit.
God.
It was so sad, but now it's funny.
In hindsight, and the fact that it didn't happen to you. Oh gosh. Yeah. But I hope you have a whole bunch of fun on your birthday anyway.
Me too.
And
I'm trying to plan it, but there's only so much I'm going to be able to do on my birthday.
Right. Is this the cruise or is this?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be on the cruise.
Okay. Yeah, there's only so much you can do on a cruise. You're confined to a specific area.
Yeah, confined to a very small space in the middle of the ocean.
Seems like a good plan.
Right.
You could just like hop overboard if you wanted and try and swim to the nearest location, but that sounds very cold.
No, thank you.
Remind me again, because I keep forgetting. Where are you going on this cruise?
Oh my gosh. It's like Haiti, Jamaica, and Bahamas. I never.
Dude, we were literally, so last night we went to Throne, one of our favorite breweries. Shout out to Allie. And we were literally just talking about all the different islands in that area. And so I was like, do you want to go to Jamaica? Do you want to go to Aruba? Do you want to go to all of these different places to Richard? And he's like, yeah, the Dominican Republic sounds nice. maybe Jamaica. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
That was one of the spots was Dominican Republic, but we ended up for whatever reason with this one. But
Yeah.
it should be
I
fun.
have so many questions,
Hmm?
but that might take too long. I said I have so many questions,
Yeah.
but that might take too long.
Yeah, probably.
Well, shall we get into today's movie then?
Yes, please.
Today's movie is Winter's Bone. I had to make sure because I kept trying to call it Winter Bones, but it is not. It is Winter's Bone. Do you have a history at all with this movie?
I mean, it came out in 2010. I didn't see it when it came out, but the reason I had heard about it and watched it was because in my very first acting class, which was at Espresso Community College, I remember a teacher was going around. It was like one of the first days, and he was asking everybody who their favorite actors were. And the girl next to me had said, she had said Jennifer Lawrence. And this was like the time when like all of the Hunger movies had came out. So she was like super popular. And he was like, oh yeah, I loved her in Winter's Bone. None of us had ever heard of that movie. We were like, what? But it made me go look for it. And because it wasn't super popular, it was available on DVD and it was super cheap. So I think I actually bought it on DVD and I owned it.
Who are you?
I know. Well, this was 2011, 12, 13. This was another time.
That's true.
But
a whole other era.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's how I saw it. And I remember I really liked it. And that was really good. I know.
Nice. I literally chose this movie just for the name.
Oh.
And it was like, I'd never seen this movie until yesterday. And I was like, cool, let's do this one. This seems fun. And especially since it said that it was a thriller. And I was so excited. And spoiler alert, I was so disappointed.
I don't know if I convinced myself I liked it just because I wanted to be into like, I don't know if this was like a lower budget movie or like I wanted to be artistic.
Right, exactly.
And
there are
like,
things like
I'm like, what the fudge? Now?
Everybody wants to read like Jane Eyre and say, oh, I understand the classics. I understand exactly what Jane Austen is talking about in all of her books.
Now I watched, I'm like, what the hell?
Oh, I'm so glad I'm not alone. Oh, cool. Well, shall we get into our director then?
Oh, sorry. Then there's out the doors. I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, let's get into it.
Oh, gosh. So our director is Debra Granik, and she was born on February 6th, which is my brother's birthday.
Oh my
Shout
gosh,
out to
another
Morgan.
February baby.
I know. There's so many February babies.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, though, so we're recording on January 6th, and 2 days ago was my nephew's second birthday. So shout out to Xavier.
Aww.
He is now officially 2.
He's barely 2?
He's 2 now. Yeah.
So big.
He's 2 now. I know.
I thought he was like 3.
No, he is 2 now. He's a huge baby.
What's that baby eating? He's so tall.
I know, right? He's just a huge kid. He's in like the 99th percentile of everything.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It'll be very fun to see how Silex turns out. He is now officially like 2 months old. And so we've got a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old as my nephews. And very different.
Tears, if that's still a thing. I don't know.
You know what? It's so funny. I can't remember where I was, but I heard a woman talk about how like from 2 to like 5 is basically terrible twos. Like they never really grow up.
From 6 months to like 7. That's terrible.
Just a terrible toddler. Yeah. That's all.
Pretty much. That's what it sounds like.
Right? Oh, goodness. But I love them dearly. And speaking of which, I've got Jeremiah coming over later and Ray. And so I will have the children for the evening.
So fun.
I will have my own terrible toddler with me.
I don't envy you.
So back to Debra. So Debra is a New York City-based independent film and documentary film director and screenwriter. She is most known for 2004's Down to the Bone, And today's film, 2010's Winter's Bone. So she just really likes
bones. Yeah.
Bones. And yet, I don't think any of these movies have anything to do with bones, but that's okay. And then this movie, as you mentioned, stars Jennifer Lawrence, which was her breakout performance. And Granik was nominated for Academy Award for Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay for this movie. And then in 2018, she made Leave No Trace, which is a film based on the book My Abandonment by Peter Rock. Never heard of either of those.
Yep.
So in 1985, Granik received her BA in political science from Brandeis University. And as an undergraduate at Brandeis, Granik also took classes at the Studio for Interrelated Media at the Massachusetts College of Arts. And in 2001, Granik received an MFA from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. Debra is the Academy Award nominated director and co-writer for today's movie, Winter's Bone, and it was also nominated for 4 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, as I mentioned, and won the Grand Jury Prize at the 2010 Sundance Film Festival.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. A lot of people really liked this movie in 2010.
That's an Oscar movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those where, like, sometimes I'm like, do you just have to make it really deep in order for it to be an Oscar movie?
I think so. Yeah, because Oscar movies are not necessarily always fan favorites.
Right. I mean, are there Oscar winning movies that are like comedies? I know that there are basically none in romantic comedies, you know.
Oh no.
So
yeah. I don't know what the requirement is to be an Oscar nominated movie. I don't know.
Maybe we should figure that out. It seems so subjective.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah. Oh no.
But shall we get into our cast?
Yes.
Awesome. So, as we've mentioned several times now, Jennifer Lawrence plays the lead role of Ree Dolly. We've got John Hawkes, who plays a character called Teardrop. And I will never get over that name. Never.
All of these people's names. Ree?
I know. There are some where I'm like, what? Oh, yeah.
That's
Ree,
the most normal
apparently...
one here. Like, that's the most normal name in this cast.
I think her name is like Ruthie or something like that. And now she goes by Ree.
Oh.
Because one of the guys says it later. And I was like, what?
I don't know. I would have thought like Brianna.
Right? I don't know. We have Dale Dickey, who plays Mereb. We've got Isaiah Stone, who plays Sonny. Garrett Dillahunt, who plays Sheriff Baskin. Ashley Thompson, who ironically enough plays Ashley. Lauren Sweetster. What a last name. Sweetster. That's awesome.
Which is funny because in the movie she calls her Sweets, doesn't she? Someone calls her Sweets. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't know if it's her, maybe.
You're right. I think she uses that as her. I'm trying to think of what it's called. Like her pet name for Jennifer Lawrence's character is Sweets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so she plays Gail. Tate Taylor plays Statterfield. Kevin Bresnahan. Oh, yeah, that makes sense now. Now that I've said it out loud, I'm like, oh, I've heard that name. Kevin Bresnahan plays Little Arthur. Ronnie Hall plays Thump Milton.
Well,
Thump.
Arthur.
What a name. I'm like, you were this close to being a cartoon rabbit. And then we've got several other like side characters. Yeah. So that's basically that. Some fun trivia about Jennifer Lawrence. So Jennifer Lawrence was originally turned down for the role of Ree for being too pretty, quote unquote. But she flew.
I can see that.
Know, right?
I remember watching it.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's too pretty to be trailer trash. I'm like, mm-mm.
Oh, that's too funny. So to make the part, she flew overnight into New York City, walked 13 blocks in the sleet to the casting office, and auditioned with a runny nose, and her hair hadn't been washed in a week. This somehow led her to win the role and ultimately her first Academy Award nomination for Best Actress at 20 years old.
The fact that she had to work to be ugly. To make it ugly, quote.
It's like when you watch... It's like when you watch Miss Congeniality and they're trying to convince you at the very beginning Sandra Bullock is like this haggard spinster. I'm like, you're not fooling me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a burden.
I know, right? Goodness gracious. So, shall we get into the ratings then?
Yes, let's go ahead.
All right. Did you want to do the 10 out of 10?
Sure.
Okay.
Alrighty. 10 out of 10. Wretched Existence in the Ozarks. The movie that brought Jennifer Lawrence to my attention casts her as a teenage girl having to look after her impoverished family in rural Missouri. The movie is shot in naturalistic style to give you a real feeling of the miserable existence of the character's lead. In her quest to find her father, the girl is focused to confront people who have had tension with the family over the years, but she is determined to press on. I'm glad you mentioned, side note, my comment, I'm glad review mentions where it's located, because I remember the whole movie, right? I was like, where are they at? Like, where is this? So I'm glad it mentions.
I know. I only knew because I read like the synopsis from IMDb. I was like, oh, okay. We're in the Ozarks.
So continuing on, I've seen a number of Jennifer Lawrence's movies over the past few years, but this is the first Debra Granik movie that I've seen. I am truly impressed. I hope to see more of her work. Winter's Bone is amongst the best that cinema has to offer. I highly recommend it. That's an opinion. There you go.
Right. That is an opinion. Oh, gosh. So spoiler, align better with the 1 out of 10. I wouldn't waste your time. 1 out of 10. This is the first review I've ever written. I just felt that I must do so. The storyline was a quote unquote bit moving. However, I found it very long, dull, and slow. Much like the lesser known sex act. Long, dull, and slow. Before you invest your 2 hours or $2 to rent it, I would think again. The actors did an okay job, but the depressing setting left much to be desired. It does tell a poignant story about the crystal problem that is plaguing the country right now, but also makes Southerners like me look like we all should be plucking a banjo in Deliverance. The cinematography was good, and the sound effects and the music were better than average. The only complaint, again, that I would have is the slow pace that kept going on and on and on and on and on and on.
And on! Exclamation point.
So I thought it'd be fun to kind of just show you or read to you what the actual like IMDb synopsis is. It is categorized as a mystery and thriller, and the IMDb synopsis says, an unflinching Ozark mountain girl hacks through dangerous social terrain as she hunts down her drug-dealing father while trying to keep her family intact.
It makes it sound like an adventure.
I know. It sounds so much more exciting.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit misleading, that description.
Oh, gosh. So funny. All right. So shall we get into our notes?
Yes. Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay. So as we have alluded to, this movie is set in the rural Ozarks of Missouri. Out of curiosity, before we truly get into our notes, I think you told me that you watched Ozark?
So we wanted to start it because we had heard it was really good, but for whatever reason, it started us on like, I don't know how many seasons are in, but it wasn't the first season. It was a random episode on like the second or third season. I mean, it was gripping, but we were like, we're so confused. We have so many questions. I don't think I can continue this if this is how it's going to be the rest of the show. And then later on, we found out that it started us on a random season. And we just haven't gone back.
I was just about to say. Yeah. I think I tried watching the first episode and I was like, I can't get into this.
Really? People love it.
I know. I think, but people also love Breaking Bad, and I'm just have no interest in Breaking Bad.
Really?
Yeah.
My mom made me get into that because she was obsessed. And then Billy was obsessed. And so I had no choice.
Your hands were tied. You had to.
I got into Better Call Saul, which is like a different, I don't know if it's a prequel or a sequel or whatever.
It's kind of just associated in the Breaking Bad universe, if you will.
But the only reason I wanted to watch that was because I did a student film where another actor was in that show.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh my God, I need to watch it now.
You got to support each other, right?
I know, exactly.
All right. So we open up this film overlooking some of the rural Ozarks landscape with a lullaby, a really creepy lullaby playing. And we watch 3 kids kind of just like playing outside. I think one of them's like 6, one of them's 12. And then we've got Jennifer Lawrence, who's like 17. And here's where we meet Ree, who is played by Jennifer Lawrence, as she gets her younger siblings ready for the day. She makes breakfast and then they all walk to school together. And we catch a glimpse of Ree at school. She's watching the ROTC, and we find out later on that she's interested in joining the army. So Ree takes their horse. Apparently they have horses, or had a horse. And she takes it to her neighbor's house and asks if the horse that hasn't eaten in 4 days can stay at the neighbor's because they happen to be short on cash and just can't afford the hay.
All their animals are starving. They have like 50 million dogs, and one of them... And at one point, I think she feeds it like rotten, moldy food. I'm like, oh, poor... I'm feeling more for the animals than the starving children.
I know. They're also starving, yes.
Yeah.
So back at their house, a policeman shows up, the sheriff of the town, and says that he needs to talk to Ree's mom. And Ree tells him, she doesn't really say a whole lot. We find out that her mom has had some kind of mental break and is just not in touch with reality. She doesn't talk.
Like a mute.
Yeah.
At this point. I don't think she says a single line.
No, she doesn't say anything
throughout the entire movie.
And she's barely like coherent, if you will. Like she just has like this Mona Lisa smile on her face at all times. But
she's like in a constant trance. Like, she's not there.
Yeah, not there at all. So then the sheriff comes outside of the house, finding that her mom wasn't very responsive. And then Ree says, you should probably just talk to me. And the sheriff says that their dad is out on bond and he figures that he's been cooking again. And then basically that in order to be out on bond, their dad put the house and whatever assets they had left up on the bond. And so if he doesn't show up at his next hearing, they're all out of the house. Like the city jail will take their house. So she is determined that she's going to find him, make sure that he shows up for his hearing so that way they don't lose their house. So later on that evening, the neighbor comes over with some meat, potatoes, and stew stuff. And the neighbor's really helpful as much as they can be, it seems. Because they take the horse, they show up with some food for the kids. Everybody kind of has like a soft spot for these kids because they understand the situation that their mom's in and the fact that Ree's taking care of them and that, they don't have any income coming in.
Yeah. And like that scene where the sheriff shows up, like the neighbor, whoever that guy is, he probably has a weird name too, a weird gang name. But he's standing there with like a little shank, kind of trying to look all threatening with the cop there. I'm like, what are you gonna do? What are you doing, sir? Like,
yeah. I mean,
basically, I think it was just to make sure that like she didn't talk.
Yeah, it has something
say something she shouldn't have said or whatever. So
yeah,
it's like they're helpful, but at the same time, it's like they're kind of keeping an eye on them to make sure they don't blab.
Right.
to anyone
Right.
about anything.
Yeah, that is something that's said like throughout the movie too. Is like we hear you talking, we know what you're going to ask, we don't want to hear it, so on and so forth.
Because that's what she said when she delivered the food. She's like, "Oh, what'd you say?" She's like, "I didn't say anything because I don't know anything." So,
which is helpful when you really don't know anything.
Yeah, when you're ignorant to everything,
right? So the next day, Ree goes to visit one of her very good friends, Gail, and we kind of get the sense that Gail was a pregnant teenager because she's got a baby. Their little baby's name is Ned, and they got married. Like Gail and I believe the baby's daddy got married because they talk about it, and she's complaining about her in-laws, and then her husband's like, "They put a roof over your head, didn't they?" And I was like, okay, that sounds fun.
I know.
So Ree goes and she flops on Gail's bed and she tells her friend the situation at hand and asks to borrow their truck. And Gail says that she has to ask her husband. And so she goes out into the living room. We see a little bit of a tense conversation and she comes back saying that he said no. And Ree gets upset about this. She says some things about how she's so different now. And Gail's like, well, I'm married now. Like, what do you want me to do? Excuse me. And then Ree heads out. So Ree visits another couple in town. I believe Victoria and Teardrop. And I know I can't get over Teardrop. Like,
I can't either.
He's a very thin.
Did he have a teardrop tattoo? I'm pretty sure he did.
Some tattoo, but it's not a teardrop. It's like a little plus sign.
Oh yeah, almost like a little like diamondy, the plus diamondy thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so there's no actual teardrop. I don't know how he got this moniker.
Okay,
but so Ree shows up and she's asking if they know where her dad's at. And then Teardrop comes in and says that he doesn't know and he's not going to help her. And this is where we find out that Teardrop is her uncle, that her dad was his little brother. And we have some confrontation where he's not happy that she's asking him questions because, the police are looking at him too and he doesn't want to get involved. And then so Victoria comes back and she tells Ree to stay close to the willows and she gives her some cash and a doobie. So I don't know if the doobie's to help her relax or if it's for.
I thought it was to keep her warm because she's walking in literal snow.
Right.
Like the amount of walking this girl is doing.
I know.
Wow, this is impressive. This is.
So Ree heads out to another house and she comes upon a girl named Megan, who asks what she wants. And she responds with, my dad is Jessup and he's friends with little Arthur and that she needs to find him. So Megan comes out of the house and they go for a walk to this other guy's place, Little John, and he invites them in. This is where he calls her Ruthie. He says something like, "Oh, I know I've been in your dreams, Ruthie. So that's why you're here to see me," or something like that. And
he gave like real creeper vibes. I was like, "Girl, don't go in there. Don't do it."
I think I was more concerned. Like in my head, I had a better, scarier, thrillery like story plot that happened.
Yeah, I remember the first time I watched it too. Yeah, I kept like anticipating that there was going to be like some sort of like, I don't know, sexual assault going on, and it was so tense. I was like, "Oh my god." I mean, I'm glad it didn't, but
yeah, exactly. But it's like at the same rate, it's like it would have been probably a better story.
It would have made sense. That's what it's sad is that.
Oh gosh. So anyway, he invites them in and he tells Ree that he hasn't seen her dad since summer. And she asks if he has any idea where he could be, because for the little while that he was there, she kept remembering him leaving the house. And he says, no. And then he offers Ree a line or if she wants to blow some smoke. And she says no to both and says, well, what the fuck are you doing here then?
You're useless to me. Get out of here.
So on their way back, Megan says, "You didn't hear it from me, but you need to go see Thump Milton. He's my grandpa." And Ree says, "No, that's the scariest dude in this whole town." Oh, man. I just can't get over the name, though. Thump
Milton. He looks like a Thump Milton, too.
Really? I've never even begin to picture a thump. I have no idea where that
he looks like
from.
A thump.
I wonder if it's because he thumps you on the head.
Yeah.
So anyway, Megan encourages her to take the only next step available to her and go see Thump. So Ree walks up to Thump's house and is quote unquote welcomed by an older woman who is Marib. And Ree introduces herself as Jessup's daughter, and Marib asks, like, "What are you doing here?" And Ree explains that she needs to talk to Thump. And Marib says, "Well, you better go wait in the yard by the coop." I was like, by the coop. Okay. So Ree goes and she waits, and Marib goes inside to tell Thump that she's there and that she needs to talk to him. And after some time, Marib comes out and says that Thump doesn't want to talk to you. He has no interest in what you're about to ask him, and that he knows that she talked to little Arthur and Megan, and that he doesn't want to hear anything that she has to ask. So she shoos Ree away. And so back at the house, Ree is making dinner. Then a man comes up and bangs at the door very angrily and tells Ree that she needs to get her ass out of there and into the truck because he has something to show her. Oh. I was like, what is happening? Why is this man so angry? Who is this man? I don't understand.
The whole time I'm like, why are these people acting like she has some audacity asking where her father is?
I know, right?
Like, that's so absurd.
Well, the other really hard thing about this is that, you know, all the characters have really ridiculous names, but you basically never hear them say them. Like, I had no idea who most people were for the longest time. And I still have no idea what this man's name is. I think this is probably Satterfield. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically you have to kind of guess and just go along with it.
Yeah.
So he takes her to a burnt down house on the other side of town and explains that that's the last place anyone saw Jessup. And she asks whether or not she's supposed to believe that he's been burnt to a crisp in there. It doesn't make any sense because he's never been known to make a bad batch or to screw up a lab at all. And so she heads out of the truck to go look at the rubble. And she explains that, you know, if his bones are there, I have to take them home and bury them. But she goes up there and she's looking through the rubble and sees that the grass has grown quite a bit. And so she gets back in the truck and they head back. He tells Ree that he can take Sunny off of her hands. So this is her younger brother who's like 12. And that maybe down the line, he can take Ashley too, which is the 6-year-old. And she tells him flat out, that's never going to happen. And she's like, you must think me some kind of fucking moron because the weeds in that rubble were about knee high. So there's no way that could have burned down anytime recently. So needless to say, she's very upset.
I know. Poor little girl. He's like, I have no use for her.
I know. I was like, goodness, what? I don't understand. What are you going to do with the 12-year-old boy? Like,
put him to work, I guess.
I guess.
That's probably physical labor.
Oh, gosh. So later on, we see that Ree is teaching the kids how to shoot a gun and about gun safety. And this is where her friend Gail shows up with the truck. She goes and talks to Gail. And as they're getting in the truck, Gail asks if Ree's mom knows what's happening. And Ree says, you know, I think this is the kind of shit that she went crazy over. So no, and she wouldn't be helpful at all anyway. Later on, we cut to some kind of birthday jamboree happening where we've got a bunch of people in a house who are all just like singing songs together and playing some instruments. So
it's someone's birthday there, yeah.
yeah. And so the girls show up, and a woman comes and invites them in, tries to offer them some food and drink. And Ree says, I'm hunting for my dad. And the woman says, I figured. So I don't fully understand this woman's role. I think she's April. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like she probably had an affair with Jessup or something.
Yeah,
like
it's not
that,
like they
based
had
on
like
the context.
relations
Yeah.
of some sort. Mm-hmm.
So she explains to Ree that, me and Jessup quit keeping company a while ago. And I was just like, okay, that's an interesting way of phrasing that.
Yeah.
But she explains that like 3 or 4 weeks ago, she saw him in Crookshanks with like 3 guys that she had never seen before. And it looked like he had gotten himself into some real trouble. So that's the last place that she had seen him. Then we go back to Ree taking the kids squirrel hunting.
Oh, yeah. I heard that that was a real squirrel that she had to deskin. I could never.
No. Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess, no, I'm not even sure that I could actually do it if I really had to for survival.
I'm thinking, like, how much are they paying me? But,
oh, man.
I mean,
that is too funny.
Who knows?
But yeah, so that's so weird. My computer's being weird. Okay, anyway, so she takes some squirrel hunting, and Teardrop shows up and tells Ree that the law found Jessup's car burnt to a crisp, but he wasn't in it, and that Jessup's court date was that morning and he didn't show. So Ree is like, how can this be possible? I don't understand. Like, why does everything have to go so wrong? So she's looking through her mother's closet, I think. And then she takes her mom out to the woods and is trying to reach her inside of her trance. And she's like, can you please just help me just this once? She's trying to figure out what to do. She asks whether or not she should sell the woods behind their house, like Teardrop suggested. And she's just begging her mom, and her mom has absolutely no idea what's going on at all.
What does that mean? Like, sell the what? Is like the land? Like, is that all their land? Okay.
That's what I got. That's the sense I got. Like, they had some acreage, and she's like, should I sell this acreage to try and keep the house?
Okay, yeah. Because I was like, what the heck is the woods? Like, like the actual like logs? I'm like, I don't feel like she'll get much for that, but I guess.
I know. I thought that the first time too, and then I was like, okay. They must be talking about acreage. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense. So Gail and Ree come home, and they see that there's a fella that they don't know who's hanging around, and he introduces himself as a bonds guy. He's here to collect on the bond. And Ree tells him that her dad is dead. She can feel it in her bones because she's his daughter, and she just knows that he's dead. And he explains that the house and everything was still short of the bond that he needed. So then a fella came in, and he had like a sack of cash, and he made up the rest and just kind of left. And she asks like if he knew who this guy was, if this guy had a name. And he's like, nope. He just dropped off some cash and went on his merry way. And I'm like,
how do you not like take record of something like that?
I know.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't make no sense
at all.
Right. So Ree asks, how long do they have to try and come up with the money to keep the house? And he says that, I reckon maybe a week at most. So she's asking if there's anything that she can do. And he explains that she has to prove that he's dead then. And then she's done. Ree heads to a cattle auction, which at first I thought it was like a rodeo.
A cattle? Oh.
I was watching this scene, and I was like, oh, okay. So they've got all these like cattle here. And I thought it was a rodeo. I thought they were doing like bull riding and stuff like that. And then I saw how like there wasn't actually an arena, and I was like, oh, this is a cattle auction. Okay, got it. So anyway, so Ree is looking for somebody. She's looking in the crowd, and then she sees somebody get up and head to the back. And so then she ends up on the catwalk, and she finds this guy, and she starts calling out for Thump. So turns out she's looking for Thump, and he is ignoring her and just going on his merry way, just walking out, and she gives him chase. So Ree then heads back up to Thump's house, and Marib comes out of the house and she throws a hot drink in Ree's face. And then her and, right, Marib and what we find out are her sisters basically carry Ree into a barn in the back. And that seems so much scarier.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
So Ree comes to, and we find out that she's been beaten up and is surrounded by Marib, her sisters, a couple of other guys who I guess work for Thump. And then Thump comes up and says, if you've got something to say, say it now. So Ree explains her situation.
I loved how like he's like, say it now. I'm like, she's been trying to tell you. Like,
I know
this could have been resolved a long time ago. And for them to feel so threatened by a literal teenage girl. Yeah, like, how fragile is your system here?
Right. So Ree explains, I've got 2 kids that I'm taking care of. My mom is no help whatsoever. And that if somebody killed her dad, she doesn't care about that. He got what he deserved, but she just needs to prove that he's dead so she can keep the house. At this point in time, Thump walks away and Teardrop shows up. And everybody in that barn is none too happy to see him. And Thump goes up to Teardrop, and they basically decide that Teardrop now speaks for Ree. And he explains that Ree is not Jessup, that she's got nothing, like no history with them. They've got no reason to be upset with her. And that she's not going to be like Jessup. She's not going to snitch. She's not going to do anything. So if anything's to happen, if anything goes wrong, they can take it out on him, and that he's going to take her home. So they go ahead and release her, and the guys carry her into Teardrop's truck, and then Teardrop gets her home and tells her that she owes him now. And that I was like, I don't know what that means. But...
I know. I'm like, I'm concerned as to what that means. Right? That makes me nervous, but okay.
But he says he becomes a little bit more of a redeemable character.
Yeah, he has a bit of a character arc, this guy.
So he explains to her that he doesn't know who killed Jessup, and if she finds out, not to tell him. Like, he doesn't need to know. The cops are looking into him. If he finds out, then it won't be good news for him. So just don't let him know. So Gail is at Ree's, and she's helping her inside and clean up because this girl has a swollen face, is got quite a bit of blood coming out of her mouth, and probably some broken ribs. Like, this girl is worse for wear.
And at one point, I think the kids, her little brother and sister, take one of her tooth and put it in like a jar of water.
I was like, what is happening here?
Like,
I don't understand.
What kind of movie is this? What are we doing?
I don't know. So that same neighbor from before comes over, and she heard about what happened, and she gives Ree some painkillers. She says, only take 2 of these to start, and then get some rest, and then going up from here, 2, and then plus some, however much it takes for you to rest. So
word gets around fast here.
I know. This is like the world's smallest town.
Right.
So later on, Ree goes to an army office looking to sign up. As I mentioned, she was already interested in joining the army, but she's also heard that there's a $40,000 sign-up bonus. And she asks about, when she signs up, when does she get that $40,000? And this guy, the recruiter, he asks a little bit more about her home situation, finds out about how she's taking care of her siblings, that her dad's dead, her mom is incompetent, essentially. And he explains to her that I don't think that joining the army is a good situation for you right now because you can't take your siblings along. They still need somebody to look after them. You're going to go into boot camp first and you can't bring them with you. And even if you get deployed or if you go into battle, like you're not going to be able to take them with you then. So this isn't a good situation for your siblings. So she leaves, discouraged. And later on, Teardrop comes and wakes Ree up from a dead sleep, and they head out to a bar.
Yeah, that scene kind of creeped me out because he was like, I'm like,
Well, and there's like no explanation as to what's happening.
I know he's literally just standing over her.
Yeah.
And then kind of like nudges. And I'm like, oh gosh, not a word. Just let's go.
Right. So she's waiting in the truck until she spots a group of guys across the street at a gas station. And then she goes inside. She kind of gives a head nod to Teardrop. And then he goes to talk to them. And we kind of get the sense that he's asking about Jessup. And they say that they don't know where he's at. They've never seen him or haven't heard from him in a while or something like that. And then Teardrop goes back to his truck. He grabs a hatchet from the back and then takes this hatchet and just goes to town on some guy's windshield before taking off.
I was so confused by that scene. Like, what was the point of him picking her up?
I don't know.
And then driving to a bar, going in the bar, drinking, and leaving her in the car. I didn't understand. What was the purpose?
I literally think it was just so she could keep watch and see when these guys showed up.
Well,
I know nothing else. Yeah, because he's got to play it cool, I
guess.
I have no idea. So then Teardrop takes Ree to a cemetery, and he says, we're looking for graves that haven't settled yet. And then they come to the conclusion that he's not there. And then while Teardrop is trying to get Ree home, he gets pulled over by the sheriff. And he requests that Teardrop get out of the truck, but Teardrop is not having it. In fact, he pulls his gun and just sits threateningly watching the sheriff from his rearview mirror. And he just takes off. He's like,
man, they have made the sheriff their bitch.
Right? Oh, this is so ridiculous. And then like later on, he says, oh, I didn't have a shootout with him because you were in the truck. So just know that I'm looking out for you. And she's like, fuck you, go away. So then I guess the next day, Marib comes and knocks on Ree's door, and Ree sees who it is, and she comes out with a gun. And Marib says, we have to settle this, and we know where your dad's bones are. So we're going to take you, and all the talk in the town is just going to cease. So Marib, her sisters, and Ree head out to a wooded area. I love that they put like a knapsack over her head, and Marib's like, even if you know what this place is, you're going to forget it. Don't even let us think that you know where this is. So they find a boat and they begin paddling into like the river, I guess. And they find a spot in the river, and Marib says, he should be right there. Just reach down and tug him up.
Jesus.
I know. I was like, what is happening? So Ree plunges her hands into the freezing water and is just kind of grasping around until finally she grabs a hold of some fingers, and she's having a really hard time with this, as anybody would. And Marib,
actually, right?
Yeah. Marib then goes to hand her a chainsaw and tells her that she needs to cut off his hands. And Ree cannot do this, so then Marib does. And then, of course, Ree has dropped I guess his arms, and she's like, well, you need to go grab the other arm. They're not going to believe us that he's dead if you only have one hand. So she goes and she grabs the other hand, and Marib cuts it off, and Ree is just kind of in a state of shock, as you would be. And then after they've gotten both hands, they head back.
Jesus.
I know. So we cut to Ree in the police station with a plastic bag
Just holding it like a sack of grocery.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. So, sheriff tells her, all right, we'll have to send them in for verification. And she's like, no, this is my dad. And he's like, I understand that you say that, but I still need to send them back. And so then she heads out. Back at the house. Sorry, go ahead.
Like, I love how he's like, oh, how did you come across this?
Right.
And she's like, oh, someone just dropped it off on the porch.
Right.
And I'm thinking, somebody, like, wouldn't that have been easier to just do? Like, just avoid all this mess, but
I guess. So back at the house, Teardrop shows up and he brings her siblings, Sunny and Ashley, 2 chicks to raise, and then the bond man shows up, and I know, I was like, what? Why chicks? What?
I was thinking, I'm like, doesn't that cost money to raise them? I'm like, these kids don't have a dime to their name.
Right.
That's work.
But I mean, if they're able to raise them, I guess they can kill them for food. I don't know, but that's like a long-term investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a thing. Anyway, so then the bondsman shows up and he hands Ree a chunk of money and says, I don't know how you did it, but this is yours. The guy who had come to pay the rest of the ransom, this is the cut that you get. He's not coming back. So here you go. And we have no idea how much it is. We just know that it's a good fat stack.
Yep.
Then Sunny brings out a banjo that Ree found and he hands it to Teardrop to play. So Teardrop then plays the banjo for a little bit before putting it down, and he tells Ree that he knows who killed Jessup, and then heads out. We don't know who it is. We just know that he knows, apparently.
Yep. He just heads out to kill him or her.
I don't know.
Whatever.
I just kind of figured he was just gonna let it lie. Like, I don't know. I
assumed to go kill him because he told her earlier not to tell him if she finds out who did it. True. I'm assuming because he would probably lose his shit and murder that person. Right. So I'm guessing that's what it would have been. I don't know.
There are too many questions.
All the questions, right?
So Ree goes to sit on the porch with Sunny and Ashley, and Sunny asks whether or not Ree is leaving to join the army, and she says, nope. I got you guys that keep me weighted down, apparently, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was like, goodness gracious.
Yeah, she's like, I would be lost without you, without the weight of you two weight on my shoulders, or something like that, which didn't sound very positive. I'm like, oh. What a life.
And then we end the movie with Ashley playing the banjo.
I don't even remember that part.
Oh my gosh. I every 10 minutes, I was like, how long is this movie? This is the world's longest movie.
It's crazy. So when I looked at it, it said an hour and 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Yeah. It's an
Which
hour
I was like, oh, because most movies now are like 2+ hours. So I was like, oh, yay, a shorter movie.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like it.
Oh, so long. So long. So I'm pretty sure this passes the Bechdel test. I think know
it does.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it does. But a lot of it, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
How random. So some trivia. Sergeant Russell Schock, who played the Army recruiter, is a real-life recruiter and combat veteran of the 1st Cavalry Division. And Jennifer Lawrence asked him questions in character, and he responded as if he was talking to an actual recruit.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. And then the title, Winter's Bone, comes from an old Appalachian expression, like a dog digging after a winter's bone, indicating someone who, like Ree Dolly, is on the search or a quest for something and will not give up. So that's the reason why it's called Winter's Bone. I wish they would said that in the movie, or something like that, or at least said
reference it, damn, you're like a dog digging after a winter's bone.
Exactly.
That would have been helpful.
Right.
Maybe they did, and that scene got cut or something. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So on our lovely caffeine scale, how would you rate this 1 to 5 espresso shots on how stimulated it kept you? 1 falling asleep or 5 buzzing?
I'm going to give it a 2.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a 2. There.
Any thoughts behind it?
My gosh. I really like the actors in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sheriff, I recognize him. He's in the Mindy Show.
Oh,
believe it or not.
Mindy Kaling.
Yeah. And then Billy's watching The Walking Dead right now. And so I asked him to watch it with me last night. And he looked up like the cast. He's like, oh, he's in The Walking Dead. But he didn't want to watch it. He's like, I'm good.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, he went to bed instead. But I mean, it wasn't my cup of tea.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a 1. This movie was so long and so dull, and like I almost texted you like 7 times, but I didn't know when you watched this movie. I was like, oh, this movie is so boring. This is so boring. Oh my gosh.
I thought there would be like more like action, more, you know, going on. Like,
it's basically a game of telephone is what this whole movie's about.
Yes, it is. It's a lot of walking to people's houses.
It is. And nobody is saying who they are or what their like real thing is. Like,
it's a whole lot of getting nowhere.
Yeah, like, pretty much. You have absolutely no idea what the relationship to anybody is. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah. I'm like, okay.
But I mean, I'm happy for Jennifer Lawrence. Like,
yeah,
I think she's a great actress. I'm happy. Like, it is really funny though that you mentioned the Hunger Games, because in the Hunger Games, like at the very beginning when she leaves or volunteers as tribute, when she's saying goodbye to her sister, she tells her mom, like, I need you to get your fucking act together, man.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this for nothing, kind of. Because apparently her mom in that movie was completely useless too. So
yeah.
I was like, I am seeing a through line.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But yeah. So
yeah.
world's dullest movie. Truly. It's so boring.
No.
Like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it was my choice. I mean, I feel misled.
Did you literally Google winter movies? Is that what you did?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
Yeah.
I know. I was really surprised to see Winter's Bone on here when you put it on the list. I was like, oh, okay.
I had just seen that it was a thriller and I was like, yes, okay, let's do this. No. Man. And then I was so disappointed. So
I'm sorry.
Okay. Now we know world's most boring movie. And I'm happy to never watch it again.
There you go. Thank you for listening to another episode of Caffeinated Flicks. We're a self-published podcast produced and edited by Kenzie.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what films you'd like us to cover, what we can do better, or just say hi.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at caffeinatedflickspod or email us at caffeinatedflicks@gmail.com. We'll catch you on the flick side.